They say the wind still carries her name. When the evening fog rolls over the fields and the last light fades behind the hills, you can almost hear it. A woman's voice, soft as the turning of pages, whispering beneath the old maple tree. That tree has stood longer than memory. Its roots twist through the earth like veins of time itself, wrapping around stories buried so deep that only the wind dares to remember them. This one began in the summer of 1943, in a small town called Renfield, hidden between the rivers and the mountains, where the night smelled of rain and smoke and old wood. Eleanor Ward was 20 years old that summer. She had hair the color of wheat before the harvest, and eyes like blue glass, fragile but filled with light. Her family's farmhouse sat on the edge of town, where the gravel road gave way to a meadow, and in that meadow stood a single maple tree. It had been there since her grandfather's time, its branches reaching out like open arms. Beneath it, she spent her childhood, drawing, dreaming, and listening to her father tell stories of love and loss and the strange ways the world remembers us. But that year, something changed. The war had reached even their quiet corner of America. Men were leaving, brothers, fathers, sons, carried off by trains that vanished into the horizon. And one of them was Samuel Reed. He was a boy from the next town, tall and quiet, with a laugh that always seemed half stolen by the wind. They met at a summer fair, dancing under paper lanterns while Glenn Miller played through the speakers. He told her he'd never seen anyone look so alive. She told him she'd wait for him, no matter how long it took. When he left for Europe, she began writing him letters. Every week, sometimes every day. She wrote about the small things, the rain on the windows, her mother's garden, the way the maple tree changed with the seasons. And in every letter, she ended with the same line. "When you come back, I'll be waiting beneath the maple tree." He wrote back for a while. His letters smelled faintly of smoke and sea salt, always sealed with the same shaky hand. But then one day they stopped. The last letter she ever received was dated March 1945. It said, "Don't wait too long, Ellie. If I don't come home, know that I still did." And then nothing. For months, she waited by the mailbox. The war ended. The soldiers came home, and life moved on. But Samuel didn't return. His name never appeared in the papers, not under missing, not under found. It was as if he'd been swallowed by the world. On the night she finally accepted he was gone, she took the letters, all 53 of them, tied them together with a ribbon, and placed them in a small wooden box. Then, beneath the old maple tree where they had once carved their initials, she dug a hole and buried it deep. She whispered his name into the soil and said, "If love has a place to rest, let it be here." And for the rest of her life, that's where it stayed. Years became decades. The farmhouse aged. The town grew quieter. People forgot. Eleanor never married, never left. She tended the garden, watched the seasons change, and every year, on the anniversary of his disappearance, she placed fresh flowers at the base of that tree. Some said she was mad. Some said she was faithful. The truth lay somewhere between the two, in that space where memory and love blur into the same ache. Then, one cold autumn morning in 1983, a storm came. It tore through the valley with winds that howled like something alive. When it passed, the old maple tree had fallen, split at its base, roots clawing at the open air. When Eleanor saw it, she didn't cry. She simply walked to the roots, knelt down, and began to dig with her bare hands. And there, wrapped in damp earth, she found it, the small wooden box she had buried 40 years earlier. But something was different. The ribbon was gone. The box was open. And inside there was a new letter. It was old, yellowed, and written in the same trembling hand that had once written to her from the war. The words were faint, but she could read them clearly. "Ellie, I don't know how you'll find this, or when, But I kept my promise. I came back. I made it to Renfield after the war, but you were gone. The house was empty, and the world had changed. So I buried my last letter where you said you'd wait for me, beneath the tree. I thought maybe one day, the earth would bring us together again. If you're reading this, it did. The letter was signed Samuel Reed, 1946. But no one ever found a record of Samuel Reed returning from the war. His name remained on the lost soldiers list, his unit unaccounted for. Eleanor showed the letter to the local pastor, who swore the ink was fresh, the seal still damp, as if written only hours before the storm. That night, she lit a candle by the window and read every letter she had ever written to him, one by one, until dawn. The next morning, she was gone. They found her sitting beneath the fallen tree, her hands folded over the wooden box, her face peaceful, like someone who had finally come home. She was buried in the meadow under the same roots that had once hidden her memories. The townsfolk said it was fitting, the woman who waited and the man who returned in his own way. But the story didn't end there. In the years that followed, the new owners of the farmhouse would find strange things near the tree. Pressed flowers, folded notes written in delicate handwriting, sometimes even a faint scent of smoke like the pages of an old letter. One night, a young girl who lived there claimed she saw a man standing under the moonlight, wearing an old army jacket, staring at the house with tears in his eyes. When she called out, he smiled and vanished into the mist. People dismissed it as imagination or nostalgia or just the way old places remember. But sometimes, when the wind moves through the valley and rustles the branches of the new maple sapling that grows there now, you can hear it again. A soft whisper, two names carried together on the breeze. Eleanor, Samuel. And maybe that's how love works. It doesn't end when we do. It lingers, in the letters, in the soil, in the things we leave behind. Maybe the world forgets, but the earth never does. They say the strongest roots grow from promises kept. Maybe that's why the new tree grew so fast, as if it knew it was rising from something sacred. So if you ever walk through Renfield and you pass that meadow, stop for a moment beneath the maple tree. You might feel a warmth in the air, a pull in your chest, a quiet ache that isn't yours. That's their story. Still living, still breathing, still waiting for someone to remember. And if you listen closely, you might just hear the sound of paper rustling in the wind, the echo of a voice saying, "I told you I'd come back." If you could feel the weight of that promise, if you could see the tree swaying under the stars, then you've just stepped into another world, the world of wild tales storytelling. Subscribe and join us by the campfire, where every whisper has a past, every silence hides a secret, and every story, no matter how lost, finds its way home. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next tale.